Hello everyone, welcome to your podcast. Thank you for choosing MYCPE as your partner for continuing education.
To avail your credit certificate, it is required for you to complete the entire video. Please do not fast forward the video. Otherwise, the system won't be able to capture your watch time. If you cannot go through the entire video in one go, you can always come back later and pick up from where you left off. Please note that you must answer all the review questions correctly. To access the final quiz, you'll need to watch the entire video. A minimum score of 70% on the final quiz is required to earn your certificate. The handout material is available for download in the designated section. If you have any technical questions, feel free to email us at support@mycpe.com.
Happy learning and thank you for choosing MYCPE. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Concierge CPA Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jackie Meyer, CPA. I have a new friend, DJ VJ on, no, not DJ VJ, Diva VJ. Wow.
Yes.
It's, and you can give everyone your full name, but
Okay.
you've been so kind to let me nickname you and use, what some of your friends do. But you are the CEO and founder of DVS Advisory Group. Welcome. Glad to have you. You've written a billion books and you've got a lot of knowledge, it sounds like. So I'm excited to have you today.
Oh, thanks, Jackie, for having me around. And yes, for all those of you, my name is Divakar Vijayasarathy. It's a Sanskrit name, and my American friends call me Diva
Diva.
Vijay. That makes sense.
That's a pretty cool
Yes,
name.
look forward, Jackie. Look forward to engaging with you.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about your background and, where are you at today?
Okay, so I was born and raised in the southern part of India, in a city called Chennai, and yes, literally among slums when I started my life. And I was an accountant in India. I was an all India rank holder, and if you were to understand, the accounting profession in India in those days was brutal. We used to have a qualifying percentile of 0.3% of people who would pass the exams.
No way.
Yes, when my brother cleared, it used to be 0.15, 0.2, and from there now it's moved on to early to mid 20s. It used to be brutal, and I qualified. I got my employment with some of the top names. Citibank was my last employer. I worked in about 4 places for 2.5 years. But employment was stifling. I wanted to get out and do something on my own. So that's why I quit in 2007 and started DVS at that time.
Wow.
My focus was on international tax because the world of tax, at least I viewed it as a fiscal, is a behavioral science subject and not a fiscal law. And that perspective took us long and far. And today here we are. We're in 4 countries now: India, Dubai, Singapore, and the US, where I'm currently I've relocated to. We have our office in New York,
Awesome.
and yes, I mean we've got 8 different practices, 200 plus people across multiple domains, and at least more than a couple of $100 million in revenue. So that's who we are at this point.
Awesome. Wow. A lot to unpack there. So how often do you make it over to your New York office?
Okay, so I live out of Greenwich, so at least go there. I hope to go there at least 2 to 3 days a week because
Nice.
I got to that office because I wanted to be in that road.
Mhm.
When I was young, I was reading Bill Ackman's journey and how he named his fund Pershing Square because he was able to see Pershing Square from his window. So when I wanted to set up an office, I went to Pershing Square and saw all the buildings from where I could see that place and chose my office accordingly.
Wow.
So I go there for inspiration whenever I'm a bit, I just want it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't think I didn't make it in 2024 to New York City. I try to go at least once a year. I'm down in Texas and I'm a native Texan, so I try to
Okay.
travel as much as possible. But yeah, maybe I can come visit you in 2025 because I love
Oh,
New
look
York
forward.
at least once a year. Not maybe more than that, but yeah. So I'm jealous. That's amazing.
Uh,
So, I mean, you started with you said essentially like in the slums. How did you turn your life around? I mean, what would you credit that to? Is it grit? Is it perseverance? Is it smarts? What helped you get out of that situation?
I mean, I wouldn't use any of it. It was life circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
Jackie. I mean, my dad became blind when I was in my eighth standard, and
Wow.
I was close to bankruptcy three times in my life,
Okay.
and I was running his business. He was an artist by profession. I'm also a trained artist
Oh.
in life, so that's how the connecting the dots comes naturally to us. And I used to run my dad's drawing school. He had a school when I was in my eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th for 4 years. And those were life-changing moments. Taught me how to run a business, what is the value of discipline. And my dad sustained the family for the next 14, 15 years. I mean, till I got settled. I mean, it really taught some real life lessons that, I mean, you're never down or defeated until you actually give up. So
Yeah.
I think I think these were the foundational moments, and I wish no one gets there, but I think that puts you, gets you ready to face larger games in life.
Sure. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that your dad inspired you in a way because he kind of started the entrepreneurial journey, and then you were able to kind of kick it off from there and do your own thing. And you've had your ups and downs in life, but who doesn't as an entrepreneur? Um, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, only the most brave ones talk about the almost bankruptcies or the lawsuits or, whatever happens in that like, quiet space that is hard to discuss. But that's really, really cool. And I grew up with a single mom teacher. Didn't have a ton of
Wow.
money, but it's nothing like probably what you went through in India. And so it's hard to even try to like empathize with that. But I love that you kick off with that so that people understand like that, you kind of rose from the ashes and now you have like a killer company or companies and anything's possible for people, right?
I mean, uh, I would ideally prefer people to not empathize, but also just start looking at life as what's possible.
Yeah.
Because sympathy, at least so far in the way we look at it, I feel it's ignorance.
Hmm.
When you These are conditionings which life has given bestowed upon me. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my kids and feel that, I mean, you guys are so damn unfortunate in life. You don't know what it takes
Yeah,
to
I
administer.
know, right?
Exactly.
I worry about that too with my kids.
Oh, seriously. I mean, but yes, I mean, life has been kind, and it's just prepared for the next battle.
Yeah.
And so in Sanskrit, Jackie, we use this term. The word life means anubhavadhara. It's just a flow of experiences.
Mm.
You're neither the cause nor the consequence. You're just a witness to what's happening around you. And the moment we get to that mindset, everything just looks like a movie happening right in front of your eyes, including yourself being a player.
Okay. And so how much like personal responsibility does one take when you're kind of watching a movie unfold? Like how much is it fate versus like you taking action? I'm always really curious about that, how people feel like how much is under your control of the actions you take versus just like what was meant to be, you know?
I mean, what was meant to be is something, the outcome, which is not in your control.
Mm-hmm.
What is in your control is the desire and the initiative which you can take.
Yeah.
Most of the times, the gap between where we are and where we want to be is a set of doubts or fears which we have.
Mm.
And we break that and go for it. Many a times, I think in life, what I've come to realize or experience is every problem looks big from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And opportunity looks small from a distance. And as we get closer to the problem diminishes and the opportunity starts to get bigger. So fate, at least in my view, is uh, outcome is not in our consequence. Taking action is in our control. And most of the times, if you go and take action without fear, the biggest barrier in life, at least I've realized, is fear and self-doubt. And if we overcome that barrier, what's beyond that is utter bliss. I mean, because the biggest pain in life is regret, right? As we all, and that's why we are all entrepreneurs.
For sure.
And yeah, and the gap between where we are and where we ought to be or where we want to be is nothing but our initiative or effort. And fate just takes us there if we just don't have fear in the route.
Yeah, I love that. I believe, are you on a Forbes writer or on one of the Forbes councils?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Which council are you on?
On the international tax
Oh,
expertise.
nice. Okay. I'm on I just blanked. Coaching one, I think. I don't know, but it's been really fun. But I wrote an article on courage and how courage is really doing something even with fear. So, I mean, we can't necessarily block out the fear, but if we can overcome it and have that courage, then that's what's going to get you that much further than the next person. I have a really dumb blocker right now. Like I do, we're 60 episodes into this podcast. I love interviewing other people on it. And obviously, I don't care about being on video for that, but I don't like just talking to the camera video, right? And that's what everyone says you really need to do is to give your knowledge away, right? So I'm setting a big goal this next year. It's such a weird fear, but I just have that fear of just like talking to the camera and giving what I know and maybe the judgment around it. And so I'm really like surrounding myself with people that are going to encourage me and hold me accountable to overcome that fear. So I just get going,
Yes, yes. Lovely. I mean, you use these lovely terms, right? You use courage, you use judgment, you use fear. I think these are simple but really deep blocks or enablers we have in our life, right? In one of our most profound principles in Upanishads, we use this concept called dharma, and dharma is acceptance without judgment.
Wow, I love that.
And when you start to look at life from that prism, you actually don't worry about what others care. Because many a times when we dig deeper, our perception of how others might judge us is a reflection of how we judge others in the game, in the bargain.
Yes, you're right.
So I think that's the constant. These are small, small levers which, since childhood, if it had been worked upon us, I think life would have been so different. But yes, better late than never.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so none of this was really part of the questions I was going to ask you, but we got deep real fast and I love it. I do want to talk a little bit about your company and exactly what you do. Who do you service? What types of clients? Are you only working with high net wealth or international expats? Or do you help smaller accounting firms if they have a client that maybe has an international experience they need? Tell us more about that.
So, I mean, thanks, Jackie. So, my journey has been filled with solving one problem for this industry, which was scale. I loved tax as a subject because it was pure behavioral science. Maybe we can talk about it on a different day. My next book with Forbes is entirely on that premise.
Yeah.
Uh, why was why were the accountants even today, when a technology company can have tens of thousands of people, billions of dollars of revenue? You see accounting firms like 500,000, one, two. In the US, there are 600,000 accounting firms for 190 billion, $160 billion of revenues in the market. And people are so fragmented. So in 2012, I tried to build a platform in India. It was called meteopro.com, where on one platform, I brought on board 2,000 odd lawyers and accountants. And for the first time, we made them put their prices online.
Ooh.
Standardized scope of work. I mean, yes, you and me are accountants, right? I mean, it's so hard to get an accountant to put his or her price published on a website. We got to do that. But the venture collapsed because we realized the accounting world suffers from three chronic challenges. I ran it for 2 years before it pushed me to my second bankruptcy.
Hmm.
First was the ownership structure. Ventures which are structured as partnerships are primarily built to share and not built to scale.
Ah, good. That's a very nice key term and key thought there. I like that.
Because as a partner, we are there to share, right? I mean, you share
Yeah.
lives, you share the spoils, but you don't build anything.
Yeah.
Second was uh, talent. An accounting firm should not be run by accountants. It should be run by professionals, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because by
Now that's
default,
really hard to do, especially in smaller firms, which dominate what, 99% of our industry? Yeah. Tell
correct.
me more about that.
No, so typically when we look at an accountant, it's like imagine a cow running a, a beef farm, right? A cattle yard. You would only think like an accountant, but you need to think like an entrepreneur. A practice is not a place where clients come and you solve a problem. It's an institution.
Hmm.
Got multiple functions where execution is just one function. You've got HR, you've got administration, you've got technology, you've got finance, you've got the future threat to deal with. Because today the problem for accounting firms is not the next accountant, it's the technology firms who are eating into our pie.
Hmm.
So you need to have a team which is built to deal with scale, built to deal with complexities. Now, a pure play accountant is only focused on numbers, compliance, structuring, strategizing around that arena. But it takes a lot more to build an institution of scale, and which a pure play accounting firm is not equipped to do because primarily we cannot afford the cost of running a large outfit because it becomes a top heavy entity and it doesn't justify unless there is good scale.
Sure.
And the third and the most important insight. So first was about ownership, second was about talent, and third was about execution. We realized execution can never be outsourced. It has to be in-house.
Mm.
Even if you are offshoring, it has to be your own entity. You cannot offshore it to a third party. Because unless you control execution, you don't control anything inside the game. Then you just become a syndicate between the client and the team which is executing. So this realization came in 2014 because 2 years I ran the platform, but DVS was running simultaneously. So from there on, uh, I took these three insights and built DVS for the next 10 years. We
Mm.
converted that to uh, a private limited company similar to a C Corp in the US.
Hmm.
We consolidated all our enterprises under one parent in India, which has never happened. Very similar to what Ernst& Young wanted to do last year in what they call as a Project Everest. And that did not happen for a variety of reasons. So we did that. And what was the most interesting thing which we did, which gave us exponential scale, was we added business services on top of professional services. So let me give you an example. If Jackie is a high net worth individual who's buying, let's say, who's making a $10 million investment, and she's buying this 10 million investment from a fund, and the fund says, I will only sell you $100 million blocks. Jackie does not have 100 million to invest. But Jackie comes to DVS for getting a tax opinion on how she can invest this money
Mm.
or what it takes. But what we realized is the real value for Jackie will come if we can make this 100 million deal from the fund matter fructify so that you can get your 10 million slice.
Hmm.
Without this, you will not be able to buy your 10 million investment, portfolio investment. So we added a layer of what we call deals to our tax structuring practice. So we started buying portfolios from foreign institutional investors. We structured the taxes and then we sold these investments to our own high net worth individuals and family office clients. Now, from charging a fee, we started charging a percentile of the profits of the value of the transaction. It exponentially changed the game.
Hmm.
We were no more a service provider, we were a partner in value creation.
Yes. That's like
And the
value
way,
pricing at its finest because you get paid when they get
exactly,
paid.
exactly. Exactly. We lost a few $100,000 or half a million, a million, but we started to gain many millions in the bargain. So this is the premise of DVS. So today DVS has three core pillars. We've got a professional services roll-up platform where we acquire and aggregate. We don't acquire, I would we take slightly over, we take 60% stake in CPA firms in the US. And we are building our own GCC back in India. The ex-global MD of Accenture has joined us. It's a solid team, people who've been there, done that. That's one part of what we do. The private deals practice, where we work with almost all the A-lister firms, you name it. We work with them, where we acquire wholesale portfolios for sale to high net worth individuals and family offices. And third, of course, the services which all the CPA firms which we acquire do for our clients. So this we do it both in US, India, and in Dubai. So that's DVS for you, Jackie.
Wow. Okay. So tell me more about this kind of roll up of CPA firms that you're doing in the US and abroad as well.
So if I were to focus my narrative on the US, in the US, we are looking at uh, mid-sized CPA firms up to 5 million in revenue, people who are stuck for growth, right? Who have scaled, but they're not able to break the glass ceiling. Because I've been there as a professional, I understand their pain. And what they need at this point is they need capital, they need leadership, and they need execution, which is offshoring. Now, we bring all the three to the table to them. We come on board where the CPA partner does not need to exit. The partner continues to run, has a 40% stake in the venture, and we invest at the fair value, and we help him expand their practice by relieving the mind space of the promoter. Ultimately, Jackie, what we've come to realize is you're an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur's most precious asset is her mind space, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the last thing you want is to be bogged down by deliverables on compliance due dates. Is my return filed on time? Is someone taking care of the accuracy of the returns? Now, when that is being managed by a professional team, a team which understands the pain. So we are not a private equity player.
Mm-hmm.
We are not an outsourcing shop. We are an operator who does
Mm.
all the functions for the professional who want to expand. And we are very, very choosy in terms of working with our professional firms. Out of the 35 odd firms I've met, we've given just one letter of intent at this point in time to engage with.
Wow. Okay.
Because we want the partner to have a growth mindset. So I come
Sure.
from an EO, YPO mindset where, as you rightly said in your introduction, where you had a set of people who will hold you accountable for you crossing over the milestones with courage. In our YPO and EO, we have forums, where in the forums we have people who hold us accountable to our commitments.
Mm-hmm.
So we want partners who have the entrepreneurial zeal, have the hunger to scale. We can bring capital to the table. We can bring top quality leadership to the table. We can bring top quality execution to the table for them. And we will grow together. And the intent is to go for a public listing in the US and in India by 2027, 28. That's the game we
Hmm.
are after.
Wow. Okay, cool. And so you're looking to invest in or partner with firms of 5 mil and more in annual recurring revenue. Is that
Up
what you're
to
saying?
five, could be 1 to 5 mil.
Okay, 1 to 5. Yeah. So that opens up a little bit broader scope of the firms. So you said you did a LOI for 1 out of 35 firms. Tell me, what are like the red flags to watch out for when you're looking at firms that you want to work for? And then like what are super green flags of like, I mean, are you looking at the type of services they're doing? Are you looking at their net profit margin? What kind of first comes to mind for you as like the best KPI or parameter to look at versus the worst?
Okay, great question. So I've done 18 acquisitions in my life so far across markets. Now, uh, let me look at the what are scary for us. The first and foremost is a partner's mindset. That we don't want the partner to quit the organization. We want the partner to run the game. Second, how good he or she is in a collaborative ambience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have they given out stakes to their own team members? Now, these are very important criterion for us because in DVS is widely held. It's
Hmm.
not held by one person. We've got more than 20 stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person has become a shareholder inside the company.
Cool.
So we want that mindset, and of course the hygienes of running the business.
Mm-hmm.
Receivables, well, what would typically the profit margins what are due for a services enterprise, anywhere between 20 and 30% are, that's the number we are
Mm-hmm.
EBITDA margin, that's what we are looking at. But more than the services, what matters to us is the partner's mindset. Does the partner have an appetite for growth and have a collaborative mindset? And when that works, then the next question we focus on is the cultural alignment. So we are a strong cultural. I've got a culture book. Maybe I can share it with you after the call, which clearly has where we have written how we think, work, and decide.
Hmm.
A simple principle is if it is not a definite yes, it is a definite no. Very
Mm-hmm.
simple. Now, these are small, which reduces decision-making time, and the entire system is super transparent as an organization. So we want to see if those are practices which are there in their organization, or even if it is not there for a variety of reasons, is the organization and the promoter's mindset amenable to inculcating these principles? I think that's what is the real key what we are going after, Katie. The mindset of Jackie, the mindset of the person, collaborative as well as hunger for growth. I think that's the combination with a good business model.
Okay, gotcha. So if a tax or accounting firm owner is listening and they're like, what's one practical, actionable thing I can do to make sure that I have the best mindset for my firm and my growth? What would you recommend for them?
Um, Envision your business practice where it would be in 5 years from now. And if in that 5 years from now, you are the core pivot based on which the entire practice is running, then we have a serious cause for concern. But if it's going to be an institution where there are multiple stakeholders carrying your flag, then yes, that's the kind of person we would love to partner with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right. So let's talk a little bit about taxes. Definitely very overwhelming to a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of misnomers around who needs tax planning and whatnot. Um, what do you think the most common challenges that you see in that area, and how do you tend to solve it for people?
Okay. So when it comes to tax, let me zoom out a bit. So in my experience over the last 17, 18 years, we've worked with clients from over 40 countries across multiple jurisdictions. Um, Tax is nothing but a game between a promoter, an entrepreneur, and the regulator. To be frank, governments don't need our tax money to survive.
Hmm.
And can't have a better example than America, where the reserve currency, the dollar, is being printed, and there is no finite limit to which the dollar can be printed.
Right.
And there is something called as a modern monetary theory. I'm not getting into that. But tax has always been used by regulators for aligning public behavior.
Mm.
If we go back, let's say 1,500 years ago, 'cause I had a personal challenge. Maybe I've written more about it in the book, but I'll take an example in history which actually opened up this dimension of thought to me. There was this when the Arab rulers were expanding their empire, they had this tax called jizya tax. So jizya was a tax levied on non-Muslim practitioners if where they don't adopt that religion.
Hmm.
But the tax also had an exemption where if you send someone from your family to the military, you don't need to pay, you were exempted from jizya. So if you realize, jizya was not to collect money, it was to mobilize army for the government.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's exactly what governments do even today. If we do what the governments want us to do, so we call it the three P's. Every government has three P's. One is priority, second is paranoia, and third is prohibition. If you do what is priority for the government, for example, jobs in any populous country, you get tax credits, whether this will apply. You look at it from a global prism. Any country which is populous, which has a problem of unemployment, you give jobs, you get tax credits. It's not the salary deductions I'm talking about. You get over and above that, you get credits for giving employment. Paranoia, the second P. If you do what the government desperately wants you to do, what they want to do, for example, in the US, I can think of two things. One is the American government wants to manufacture semiconductors in the US, right? So imagine you set up a semiconductor factory, you get land free, you get 50% taxes waived. The list of exemptions are endless. And this is not only with the US, it happens across the world. And similarly, America, there is a lot of noise on import substitution. So if you are manufacturing something in the US which substitutes an import from China, there is a huge tax credit available. And these, I don't need to read the tax laws, but just listening to the politicians, this is how the tax code will be. And by and large, based on my research, this is true. And the third P is prohibition. Look at casinos, look at liquor, tobacco. These are industries which by social norms are prohibited, but the government will always protect it because they are the highest grossers of tax revenues. And again, statistically, the stock which has delivered the largest returns over the longest period of time in the US markets is a tobacco stock. So globally, if an entrepreneur aligns her interests with what the governments do, you actually won't be, you don't need to pay taxes, you end up getting rewarded. Look at what Elon Musk has done in your state, in Texas. By setting up factory in Austin, he's got tax breaks, huge tax breaks. The same thing happens to entrepreneurs across the food chain. You don't need to be the largest entrepreneur. You just need to be asking the right question on the regulation. I'm doing this business. I'm giving jobs. I'm manufacturing something which the government is currently importing from China. I'm manufacturing something which the government desperately wants. What am I getting in return from the government? For sure, you will have an answer. Just that the American tax code is 9,000 pages, if not more, where it is humanly impossible for someone to know the entire code unless you specifically search for it. So, our recommendation for entrepreneurs is understand your contribution to the government and ask the right questions of the regulation. For sure, there is a tax break available. There is a statistic in the US which says that 2/3 of tax incentives in the US which are published are not being claimed. In one of the in one of my earlier research assets. Imagine US, a country with so much of information dissemination, its 2/3 is not being claimed. In most parts of the world, it's much, much higher. It's much, much higher. So we as entrepreneurs need to ask the right questions. I'm giving you so much. What am I getting in return? You will definitely have an answer for sure. And that answer is what we call as tax structuring.
I love that. So yeah, where do your interest ethics align with what the government is propagating right now? And, so how do you maximize that tax benefit around that? I mean, you mentioned so many things there that have way deeper layers. You mentioned, alcohol. I just saw how a study came out recently that alcohol is like literally been found to be like the most toxic substance ever. And it's one of two drugs that can actually immediately kill someone in withdrawal. And there's so many people going through that. I personally know someone that had withdrawal seizures and now has what people call wet brain. And they're very young in their 40s. And this is happening almost on a daily basis, but we don't hear about that. So I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but that's very personal to me. And I think that it's important for us to, I think a broader statement of, I love how you explain the tax system, but from a broader perspective, we have to continue learning and evolving and educating ourselves so that we know what's really going on out there versus just what we're being told, right?
Exactly. And Jackie, the entire game is about alignment. Align what you do with what the governments want. And whether we like it or not, ultimately, the supreme power is with the regulator. And the regulators look at, I mean, the direction of the regulation will clearly tell you where the governments want you to invest. What are the activities they want you to do? And if a savvy entrepreneur is going to someone, I mean, America is is the mecca of capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
If a savvy entrepreneur is going to look at the government policy, just like how a YouTube creator or a Facebook creator listens to Zuckerberg's speech and then prepares their content strategy for the next year. I think for us, it's what the government wants us to do. If they are saying, if Mr. Trump says, I'm going to promote import substitution, I think manufacturing is a way to go. And when that happens, automatically there will be huge tax incentives at play. You don't need to evade any law. That's what we say, don't evade, align. When you align, your tax costs are drastically low. Tax is
Mm-hmm.
the cost for non-alignment.
Yeah, totally makes sense. While we're on the topic, I'm sure you probably have some really great insights here. What are your predictions with Trump in office again for the next 4 years? Do you think it's going to be very stable and he's going to extend as much of TCJA as possible? Any kind of loopholes that you think will be thrown for there?
So, to be very honest, I don't know the American tax code in general, but I'm looking at, my perspective would be more at a macro level as an observer.
Yeah.
Now, from that standpoint, Trump at the helm of affairs would be pro-business,
Mm-hmm.
which means the corporate tax rates may not go high.
Yeah.
But what will be very clearly looked upon is the tariff regime. So his focus, as he's already enunciated, would be to make sure that if you are importing X to America, we would also have the right to export at least X to you. Today, the trade deficit across the globe towards US is substantial. Partly, it's because of the fact that the dollar is still the reserve currency. So with that being said, I feel there will be a huge emphasis on import substitution.
Mm-hmm.
Tariff rates, I'm not too sure if expanding tariff rates would be a solution, or maybe enforced in the right, I mean, in the manner in which it is being propagated,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because it could make domestic consumption unviable on most products or services. But where I see real core emphasis happening is import substitution.
Okay.
And it's a great time to be an entrepreneur at this point in time, at least for the next 4 years. I'm already seeing the jubilation on the ground. So let's hope it materializes.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Let's talk about your 15 books. Is it the 16th that's coming out with Forbes soon, or is it the 15th? It's hard to keep count of all the books.
I don't count. It's closer to about 17, 18 at this point in
Oh,
time.
my bad. My bad.
No, no, no. I mean, so I don't know where,
Okay,
but
so where does one start if they're interested in what you have to say? We know the audience here is mainly, accountants, professional service firms. What book? I guess I want to ask what's your favorite of all the ones you've written, but also which one do you think that our listeners would enjoy the most to start with?
I mean, to begin with, except the current one which I'm writing with Forbes, the rest have all been technical books. Let's say they would be
Mm,
on transfer pricing, understanding international tax, understanding capital gains. But I would say the one which is coming out in the month of April, which is titled Don't Just Pay Taxes. It's
mm-hmm,
not desist anyone from paying taxes. It's only about giving them just pause before you get into that journey, understand what it takes to align with the government. I think that book quick summarizes my 18 years of journey in this uh, era, in this subject. So I would sincerely recommend users, I mean, listeners to start there. And if they are keen on understanding the fundamentals of international tax, that's the title on which I've written. It's called The Fundamentals of Understanding International Tax. It typically talks about how countries negotiate with each other on the tax treaties and how each of these clauses of the treaties need to be uh, dwelled upon to make sense of it. Because most of the times, the letter of the law and the way in which the law is actually being implemented could be very different.
mm-hmm,
And that's a function of why that law was originally brought into force, what we call the memorandum of the legislation. So that book would give them a perspective. I think these are the two books I would recommend them to if they are keen on understanding my dimension of thought. And of course, I do write on LinkedIn of late, but I don't write much on tax. I write much on trying to understand human nature. And that's
Sure.
my current area of interest. So I write on that as well on LinkedIn. I'm
Okay.
coming up with a podcast very soon. So,
Nice. Okay, definitely looking forward to the release of that book. Treaties reminds me of the beginning of my accounting career. I got in the back door at Deloitte in their international tax department in Dallas, and we would just create these Excel calculations of um, expats between the US and other countries, what the tax mitigation effect was. And it was
yes,
so much fun.
exactly.
Yeah, there were like 26 countries back in 2008 or 2009 that we were specifically focused on. I don't remember why 26, but we created these like really complex macros and Excel calcs and whatnot around them. And, it's when I kind of fell in love with Excel for sure.
No, no, lovely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating at all. Jackie, just my team just messaged me saying I used to be on the Forbes Council. I don't at this point in time.
Ah, okay. Good to know. Good to know. That's cleared up now. Everyone was wondering. No, just kidding.
Okay. No, no, but the last thing you want is to go on with a wrong claim.
For
So,
sure, for sure. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So, with misconceptions with international tax, I mean, you've already kind of talked about this in a way, but what would you say the biggest misconception is when people consider international tax implications?
okay. Now, again, I would prefer to zoom out and then zoom in.
Okay.
If you were to slice the world into three parts, there are three categories of countries in the world: capital exporting countries, capital importing countries, and conduit countries. We call it the source countries, the destination countries, and conduit countries.
Mm.
Now, the tax laws of source countries are very predictable. It would have source-based taxation. It would have what do you say? Uh, Dividend withholding, interest tax, all the provisions which are required to ensure that when capital goes out, income which comes in gets taxed.
Okay.
Conduit, conduit countries will have neither. They act as the flow between source and destination countries. So they will have zero capital gains. They won't tax foreign dividends. They won't tax interest paid to foreign countries. There will be very minimal to nil withholding taxes. And then you have the destination countries, which will be high complex tax laws. They will have high withholding tax rates. These are countries which will give a lot of exemptions for investment, but they'll put a lot of frictions for repatriation of that money. So this is at the highest level how the world is structured. And and with this prism, you start looking at an international tax situation. Then the priorities of the countries become very clear. Let me take a simple example. If it's between US and India. Now, US has its own, what we say, globally, there are four kinds of treaties. We have the UN Model Convention, you have the OECD Model Convention, and then you have the Andean Model Convention, and of course, the US Model Convention. So, uh, when you look at international tax, we'll go back to the model conventions, which are more like templates, which will give us a premise on which basis which every treaty is negotiated.
Mm.
And on that basis, so anyone who's trying to make sense of international tax, first, my 2 cents is understand the nature of countries you are dealing with. Is it a source, conduit, or destination country? And then you look at what is the model convention which has been adopted. I think these two will give you the filters to interpret the particular tax code or tax treaty which you're trying to understand more than the treaty itself. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it. I think that makes a lot of sense to people. All right. So we're going to have to wrap up in a couple minutes. Is there anything
Okay.
else that we haven't touched on yet that you wanted to make sure and address with our listeners, or, any knowledge or education that you had that we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, I'm just curious to understand from you, Jackie. I mean, in terms of how the American CPA views the tax code.
How we use the tax code. What do you mean? Tell me more.
Now, how the American CPA views the tax code. Do they look at it as a set of compliances to be adopted or a set of opportunities to be explored?
Yeah.
How do
Okay, that's a great question. All right, I would say that the average accountant, and y'all can, correct me if I'm wrong out there. A lot of my listeners are not necessarily the average accountant or CPA, but the average one is focused on compliance, the set of rules and following those rules. Something that I'm trying to break. I'm in love with tax advisory myself. We didn't really get into that side of it, but I'm just eating up everything you're saying because I love legally manipulating the tax code to optimize it for my clients, right? Magically producing money from your knowledge. So it's just there's so many wins when it comes to the tax code. So I use it personally and in my CPA firm towards legally optimizing what I can, or manipulating, if you'd say it that way, legally towards whatever, is going to help your client. And I really like what you said about looking at the alignment of government incentives with what the client wants to accomplish, because that, at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're doing when we're proposing tax planning and strategies, is
Exactly.
figuring out, if you're a real estate investor, let's figure out what those loopholes are. What are the things that the government said, hey, here's what you can do to save a ton more in taxes than the average Joe or Jane, right? So that's where I think the future of the profession really lies, as AI and whatnot kind of take over more of the compliance work. I think the word accountant, that A for accountant, really needs to transform more to advisor. And that's kind of what I'm pushing through tax advisory, Tax Plan IQ, my software, and whatnot. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think you've nailed it because I think this is one thing I wanted to mention. I did go through the demo of your tax plan IQ software. It was fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
It succinctly, and it was I could see a lot of intellectual depth in which you've built that software. I mean, congratulate you for what you've accomplished
Thank
there.
you very much. I appreciate that.
And that aligns, I mean, where you rightly said, right? I mean, you're looking at manipulating. I mean, you're using your intellect to align. That's
Hmm.
how I would that.
Ooh, that
Um,
sounds even better. Intellect to align. I'm going to steal that.
no, it's yours. It's what you've been doing. What you've been doing. So, I think what you said, the average accountant now, not only in the US, across the world, I think the profession. It's time for the profession to reimagine,
Hmm.
and where we move from activity-based engagement to value creation engagements,
Yes.
activity-based pricing to value creation pricing. I think we as human beings are naturally aligned to pay for outcomes rather than efforts. Right? I
Hmm.
mean, no one wants to pay for time. No one wants to pay for efforts. But if I'm going to make you $100 and I'm going to charge $10, you will not have a problem. But if I'm going to do an activity and charge you even $5, you will still look at it as a cost and not as a sharing of rewards. So I think that's the mindset which the promoters or the partners of the CPA firms now need to look forward. And this has been our experience working across 4 jurisdictions. I'm glad that you resonate with that and what you've been doing with your software. And I'm wishing you all the very best in your journey, and kudos to what you've been doing for the profession as well,
Thank you
Jackie.
so much, Diva. I really appreciate that. And kudos to you for all of the knowledge sharing that you've been doing with your dozens of books and your company, and how you're impacting. It sounds like you have big goals to impact the world. So, on that note, if someone wants to touch base with you or learn more about what you do, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so that's the easiest and the fastest way to reach out to me.
Perfect. So we'll add a link to your LinkedIn so that everyone can touch base there. Is there a website that people can go to learn more about your company?
Absolutely. Our company, it's onedvs.com, onedvs.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I have to admit, the questions I had prepared were kind of dry. It's like, tell me about your company, tell me about that. And I really enjoyed kind of taking things deeper. And I really respect where you're coming from. And it's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, likewise, Jackie. Truly enjoyed the interaction and hope to meet you in person sometime.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, that's the conclusion of the Concierge CPA. Y'all take care. Goodbye.